What's up, guys? Tim Little. Welcome back to Tactical Bassin. Are you guys finding more and more fishing pressure on your bodies of water this year? You feel like it's affecting your fish and making the bite tougher? Today's video, I'm covering my favorite go-to baits, most confidence baits when the bite is tough and you need to catch fish. One could argue that 2020, 2021, these 2 year and a half, the fishing seasons, there's been more fishing pressure than ever before. You know, with the pandemic, a lot of people had a lot more time off. Boat sales were through the roof. I've heard numbers anywhere from 6 to 8 to 10 million new fishing licenses were sold over the previous year. So there's a lot of new fishermen, a lot of boat pressure, a lot of traffic on the water, and we've been hearing it a lot in the comments, just talking to people traveling across the country. Seemingly, the one thing that everybody has in common is that the fishing has been a little bit more tough, a little bit tougher than in previous years. And I've witnessed it. You know, some of the fisheries we've been to fish, it just seems like things are just a little bit off. The fish are acting a little bit just different, right? And I can attest to fishing pressure does affect fish. So today's video, I want to cover some of my favorite baits, some of my confidence baits when the bite gets tough. Now, a perfect example of this, you guys will see this video here shortly in the next week or two, but Matt and I were just on a road trip up north doing some video stuff, and we were chasing big smallmouth. And you guys know that we love reaction fishing, power fishing for those big smallmouth, throwing crankbaits and swim baits, that sort of stuff. And let me tell you, man, I could not force feed them that swim bait. You guys know how much we love the Kitech and the dark sleeper, but we could not buy, at least I could not buy a bite on the sleeper. They were eating it funny. They were like nipping at it. They didn't want to fully commit like normal. And it could have been a weather thing. It could have been, a pressure thing. But I had to downsize. And that's what I want to kind of talk to you guys about today is don't be stubborn. You know, when we're out on the water, a lot of us like to catch them how we want to catch them, right? You guys have seen it in previous videos where I want to catch them on top water, or I want to catch them on a square bill. But this was a day that really stood out because, man, it was getting frustrating. I was getting so many bites, but they were not committing to the swim bait. And it wasn't until I really slowed down and downsized that I started putting some of those better fish, those good fish, in the boat. Now, before you guys click out of this video and you say, you know what, I'm a power fisherman, I don't throw a spinning rod, I don't care about your finesse baits, I have some stuff for you to look at today too. You know, the new BFS stuff, the bait finesse, talking about throwing your finesse baits on a bait caster. You don't have to necessarily throw it on a spinning rod. So we'll talk about that a little bit. But like I said, on that last trip, just got home a couple days ago, and it was extremely frustrating not getting those fish to commit and having to downsize. So next time you find yourself in that situation, think about these baits. Be prepared to pull a spinning rod out or a BFS combo out and really slow down to catch those fish. So number one, trying to make that transition from reaction to finesse. It's kind of a gray area, but I'm going to go with some kind of finesse swim bait. This right here is the Mega Bass. That is the Spark Shad paired up with that Okashira spin head. It's got that little prop on it. We've done several videos in the past on that. And then a little guppy head. You know, if you really want to find out if there's fish in the area or the fish that have shut down, they won't commit to your bigger baits, you want to find if there's actually fish there feeding, throw some kind of slow rolling swim bait. You know, I can't tell you how many times this little guy right here, a little 2.8 size swim bait, this is actually a Kitech on a little guppy head, has saved my fishing. Either it's myself or my kids or my wife, but just tying this on like 6, 8, 10 pound test, you can throw it on a bait caster or a spinning rod. But guys, hands down, bring one of these types with you, one of these swim baits with you, because if you are struggling, this seems to always produce when the other baits won't. You know, you can still cover a lot of water. You don't have to sit there and just drag a drop shot, shake the drop shot. You can still cast and move and try and find those active fish if there are any, but at least you still feel like you're doing something, right? A lot of guys, they just hate sitting still, dragging a shaky head, dragging a Carolina rig. At least this, you can cast it out, you're reeling, you're doing something with your rod, giving that bait some action. But a finesse swim bait is my #1 bait to throw if I feel like the fish have shut down and I need to catch fish. So that is by far my favorite. It's kind of that middle ground. It's not really a true finesse bait, although it's on finesse gear, so that's how I justified putting it in today's video. #2 is going to be some kind of wacky rigged, weightless, or Neko rigged stick bait. This is a Yamamoto Senko. Now the reason I went with this is because it is so versatile. Depending on the type of fishery you're on, I don't care if you're bank fishing, you're pond fishing, you're fishing docks, you're fishing up shallow in stuff, but a weightless worm, wacky rigged worm, is one of those true finesse baits that will get bit when others won't. You know, you've tried your reaction stuff, you've tried your finesse swim baits. Now you want to slow down and you just want to really pick apart an area. That wacky rigged or Texas rigged stick bait is my #2. Now I have that rigged, that's on a Neko rig. I got a little weighted skirt on there. But more importantly, guys, that you guys like to throw bait casters, you know, there's been this BFS deal now for a while overseas, over in Japan. It's bait finesse. It's pretty much a low profile reel with a really shallow spool that allows you to throw your really light baits, your finesse baits, on bait caster gear. You know, I could almost spool this. I'm actually throwing into the wind. I could almost spool that Senko on a bait caster. So if you guys find yourself not really wanting to pick up a fairy wand or a fairy stick or a spinning rod, whatever jokes you might have for a finesse fisherman or a spinning rod, you guys need to check out the bait finesse stuff. It's really, really cool. Again, Japan has a lot of cutting edge techniques that we bring over into the United States, especially for highly pressured fish, highly pressured waters, and you know, a lot of those techniques work really, really well over here. So real quick, I wanted to throw that in, but a weightless Senko or a Texas rig, wacky rig, however you want to rig it, weightless Senko is my #2. I've caught so many fish when, like I said, the reaction stuff doesn't work, the drop shot doesn't work, the shaky head doesn't work, but something about that wacky rigged presentation or that weightless fall really gets those fish to eat when they really don't want to. Now, my last two, I'm going to combine them because they're kind of, to me, they kind of fit both of the same category. Even though they're two different styles of baits, I find myself switching between them more often than not, and more this year than any time in the years past, because we found these little tiny, these are little tubes, finesse tubes have worked really, really great, mixing them in with the Ned rig. So my #3 bait, 3 or 4 bait, is going to be a Ned rig or a finesse tube. You know, now I'm talking about a trip that we just went on chasing smallmouth. So obviously the tube works really, really well, mimicking sculpin and gobies and little bait fish on the bottom. That Ned rig, same type of deal, little bit less action, more bottom contact with that exposed head versus having some rubber in between the bait head or the head of the bait and the bottom contact. But guys, a tube, a finesse tube, I don't know if I have a, let me see, I'll show you. Here's a full-size tube and here's a little finesse tube. I'll show you the size difference. So when I'm talking a finesse tube, hopefully you guys can see that. It's a finesse tube. It is small, but again, it works awesome, especially when your big tubes don't work. You know, you have that different fall. That tube has a different fall than a Ned rig. So if you guys love throwing a Ned rig, definitely try out one of these Finesse tubes. I will link all of my favorites down below in the video description. But this year, Matt as well, I mean, we've had a ton of success going away from a traditional jig or a big heavy tube and going light line and going with the Finesse tube. And it's crazy when you can lead a fish and they avoid everything else. You throw that little Finesse tube out there, and the way it falls and spirals down, those fish just come over. They don't feel pressured. They don't feel like it's too big of a meal. They just swim over and they just suck it up. It's the craziest thing, but it works. And then again, how do you talk about this type of video without some kind of Ned rig? You guys know how much we love throwing the Ned rig, especially for smallmouth. But these techniques don't just work for smallmouth. I just keep mentioning it because that's the trip we just got back from. But out here on Chickamauga, you know, we've talked about it for the last season and a half or so about how those fish are really keyed in on those small baits, having to downsize, having to slow down to get those fish to commit. But just wanted to do a little different video for you guys. You know, there's a lot more fishing pressure these days, a lot more fishermen on the water, and it is great. You know, that is the whole reason that we do this, to help you guys become better fishermen, to make more fishermen have confidence to get out on the water and share our confidence with you guys, so that you guys in turn have success out on the water. And it's better to grow the entire sport, to grow the industry, and get more fishermen out on the water and off the couch, away from the TV, right? Less Xboxes and more tackle boxes. That is the key. So again, just wanted to do a little different video for you. You'll see some of that fishing video. We shot a couple videos. We'll have those rolling out here in the next couple weeks, but just wanted to do a little bit of a confidence builder for you guys, because right now it is extremely tough. You know, it's the end of summer, dog days of summer. These fish have been pressured all year. It's literally the toughest it's going to be all year. These fish have seen so many baits, and don't be afraid to pick up a finesse rod, either that BFS or some kind of spinning rod. Downsize your line, downsize your baits to have fun out on the water. You will catch more fish making these simple, subtle adjustments. I can almost promise you it's worked wonders for us. You know, fishing all over, just seeing the amount of pressure, especially, I mean, here on Chickamauga. I mean, the first week we were here, I think there was a 900 entrant tournament. I mean, they're just big tournaments. Out on the West Coast, we don't come anywhere near that. You know, 200 boats is a big field. So it is just a different world out here with the pressure, and you always have to be adapting. You have clear water, you got a high pressure, you got more fishing pressure. Make those subtle adjustments so that you guys can have more success out on the water. Again, I will link all of my favorite baits down below in the video description. But those three baits, man, that little finesse swim bait, a weightless worm, wacky rigged worm, and either the Ned rig or the tube are hands down my favorite. Now, one could argue that you could get away with a drop shot. Absolutely, it works. It works great. I'm just trying to give you two baits that have a little bit of action to them. You know, that tube, you can really pop it and let it fall. Let that thing kind of do its work as it falls. It has that spiral down, a little different action than, say, a weightless worm. Obviously, with that swim bait, you're going to give that bait some action and be moving it. And if it really gets tough, go with that weightless, wacky rigged worm. Very, very subtle and less intrusive than the other baits, and those fish will eat it. But again, guys, I know it's tough. We've been seeing it in the comments. We've been seeing it when we talk to people all around the different launch ramps and stuff. It's like, man, fishing's just been tough this year, and we can agree. It just seems that way. But you know, here's to a better year, more confidence with these baits. And if you guys have any questions, please leave them down below in the comments section. But I'd like to hear some of your favorite confidence baits. You know, we're all different. We all have our different styles. You guys know that I love throwing power fishing. I love reaction fishing. But when it gets tough, I pick up the spinning rod. I pick up the finesse rod because I have a ton of confidence in it. So I'd like to hear some of your favorite confidence baits that you catch them on, or that at least you have confidence in when the bite gets tough for you guys. As always, guys, we appreciate you. Thanks for watching. Hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We do at least three videos a week for you, sometimes 4, 5, 6, who knows. But at the end of the day, it's all about confidence and helping you guys catch more and bigger bass. Like I said, we appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.